She was thrown away like garbage. That's when he decided to rewrite the ending. The stench of sterilizing agents mixed with ozone hung heavy in the alley behind the Vixillian General Medical Complex. Neon blue lights from the emergency exit flickered, casting eerie reflections off the rain-slick pavement. It smelled like antiseptic and indifference. Ryan Mercer should have kept walking. 12 hours of fixing atmospheric regulators across the city had left his shoulders sore and his boots soaked. All he wanted was a shower, a heat pack, and maybe 4 hours of sleep before the next shift. But something made him stop. A soft metallic clatter. Faint. Too faint for a drone. He turned his head. An abandoned shopping cart sat just beyond the dumpster, half shrouded in shadows. He nearly dismissed it as junk, until it moved. He stepped closer. That's when he saw her, curled inside like a discarded toy, thin limbs wrapped around her body, shivering violently. Her skin, translucent and pale like frost under moonlight, glowed faintly with hues that shifted under the neon glow. Her hair, long and silver white, hung in tangled waves over her shoulders. Not human, not any species he recognized. "Hey!" he called out cautiously. Are you okay?" Slowly she turned her head, and his breath caught. Her face was hauntingly beautiful, high cheekbones, narrow jawline, and eyes the color of glacial oceans, luminous and too large for her face. But it wasn't her beauty that stopped him. It was the look in those eyes. Despair, not fear, not anger, just absence. A complete surrender to the idea that no one would come. "They said I wasn't worth it," she whispered, voice like wind through broken crystal. "Too sick, too expensive." Ryan blinked. "Wait, who? Who said that?" "The doctors." Her fingers tightened around the tattered hospital gown clinging to her. "They ran the numbers. Treatment wasn't resource efficient. So they left me." He looked up at the hospital's back entrance. Gleaming metal, sealed tight. No one in or out. His stomach turned. Vixillians were known for their cutting-edge medicine, but also their cold algorithms. Their entire healthcare system operated on cost-benefit. A patient had to statistically prove they were worth saving. And she didn't make the cut. They threw you out like trash," Ryan said, more to himself than her. She nodded once, a movement so fragile it looked like it might break her. Ryan shrugged off his jacket and knelt beside the cart, wrapping it gently around her trembling form. She flinched at the contact, but then stilled, as if some part of her realized he meant no harm. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated. "Vonra." "Okay, Vonra." His voice lowered. "You're coming with me. I don't know how to fix what's wrong with you, but I know someone who might." Her eyes blinked slowly, confusion and disbelief flickering through the glow. Why? That single word held so much. Suspicion, fatigue, and a quiet, aching hope. "Because no one deserves to be left like this," Ryan said, lifting her into his arms. She weighed next to nothing, but her warmth pulsed strangely against his chest. "Not on my watch." And as he turned from the hospital, the place that had abandoned her, Ryan knew this wasn't just about saving someone's life. This was about proving that humanity still mattered in a universe that too often forgot what compassion looked like. The city's underbelly stretched out around them. Gritty side streets, flickering neon signs, the occasional hovercraft rumbling overhead. Ryan cradled Vonra against his chest as they moved through the alien quarter, her body light but unnervingly warm. She hadn't spoken since they left the alley. Her fingers clutched weakly at his shirt, breath shallow and rhythmic like she was afraid even speaking would tip her over the edge. Ryan glanced down at her. "You still with me?" A faint nod. Her forehead pressed lightly to his shoulder. That was enough. Kazara's clinic wasn't far. It sat wedged between a Martian noodle shack and a pawn shop that sold black market tech. A flickering holographic sign above the door read, "All species welcome," in 12 languages, some of which Ryan couldn't even pronounce. He rang the chime with his elbow. From inside, a voice, deep and melodic. "Coming. I swear, nobody respects operating hours anymore." The door slid open, revealing 7 feet of Arcturan chaos. Kazara was feline in shape, but towered like a wall of fur and muscle. Tawny gold coat with black streaks, golden amber eyes that never missed a detail. And tonight, a garish Hawaiian shirt stretched awkwardly over what looked like human pajama pants. Ryan didn't flinch. "Hey, Kaz, I need a favor." Kazara blinked, his whiskers twitched. Then his eyes dropped to the figure in Ryan's arms. His expression shifted instantly from casual to clinical. "Bring her in. Room 2. They passed tanks of glowing fish and terrariums full of creatures that pulsed and blinked. Ryan had always joked that Kazara's clinic looked more like a zoo than a medbay. Tonight, he was just grateful it existed. Inside the room, sterile lights buzzed above an examination table, surrounded by equipment that looked half medical, half experimental. "Set her down," Kazara instructed, washing his paws in a sonic field. Ryan did as told. Vonra flinched at the contact with the cool table but didn't resist. Kazara's tone softened. "My name is Kazara. I'm going to scan you. You can say no, but I suggest you don't." Vonra's eyes, those luminous turquoise pools, flicked to Ryan. He gave her a reassuring nod. "Yes," she whispered. Kazara began scanning with a handheld biospectrometer, murmuring softly. "Fascinating." "Is that good?" Ryan asked, arms crossed. Kazara didn't look up. "She's Lumidian, Southern Archipelago subvariant, judging by the trace bioluminescence. Rare and very sick." He tapped something on a console. "Stellar Cascade Syndrome. Degenerative, but treatable, if caught in time." Ryan exhaled. "Then we've got a shot?" Kazara's tail flicked. "Yes, but it's not easy. She'll need phosphorescent algae, deep-sea strain from Europa. Hard to come by. Highly regulated. So, what? We wait? Apply for import clearance?" Ryan said, already knowing the answer. Kazara shook his head. "She doesn't have that kind of time. You'd need to find a supplier. Off-grid." "Black market," Kazara shrugged. "If it saves her life, does it matter what color the market is?" Ryan looked at Vonra again. She lay still, watching him with wide, exhausted eyes. She hadn't asked for rescue, hadn't begged, but something in the way she looked at him, as if daring to believe, pushed him past hesitation. "I'll get it," he said simply. Kazara's whiskers twitched, not surprised. "Then you'd better get some rest. You'll need to be fast, and very, very careful." The night outside Kazara's clinic had deepened into silence, the kind that pressed in on windows like breath held too long. Ryan sat slouched on a bench in the hallway, rubbing his hands together while the old thermal unit hummed nearby. Kazara had given Vonra a mild stabilizer and let her rest inside one of the recovery rooms. "It'll buy us some hours," he'd said, "but not much more." Ryan stared down at the floor. He hated this part. The helpless waiting. The not knowing. Kazara was brilliant, yes. But even he couldn't perform miracles without ingredients the law refused to provide. Europa's algae would take time. Time Vonra didn't have. Ryan's gaze drifted to his tool belt. Old habit. When things broke, he fixed them. Not with theory, with wires, heat, instinct. And that's when it hit him. Not medicine, but modulation. Energy systems. That's what he understood. Stabilization, fluctuation dampeners, failover controls. Systems that needed to stay alive in the chaos of atmosphere. Wasn't Vonra's illness exactly that? A failing energy system? He jumped to his feet and rushed into the adjacent storage lab. Kazara had always been a hoarder of strange tech. Human, alien, and unidentifiable. Ryan rummaged through bins, pulled out coils, thermal filaments, adaptive circuits. He cleared a bench, drew a diagram on a screen, and started building. Something crude. Something fast. A directional energy regulator, designed to sit near the body's core and dampen the wild oscillations of bioelectric discharge, normally used in hazard suits. He repurposed it, reprogrammed the core to read bioluminescent pulses instead of static voltage. Kazara entered at some point, blinking at the chaos. "What in the spiral are you doing?" "Making her a patch?" Kazara tilted his head. "You're not a doctor." "I'm a maintenance tech," Ryan shot back, eyes never leaving his work. "Things break. I fix them." Kazara didn't argue, just leaned against the doorframe, quietly watching. 20 minutes later, Ryan slid the regulator into a slim housing the size of a playing card. He tested it against a dummy node. Stable. Smooth. No spikes. He exhaled, then grabbed the device and went to Vonra. She was curled up on the recovery cot, still pale. The faint glow under her skin now flickered irregularly, like dying stars. Her breathing had grown shallow. "Vonra," he whispered, kneeling beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, slow and unfocused. "It's me. Ryan. I made something. It's not medical. Not really. But it might help." She blinked, as if trying to process the meaning behind his words. "What is it?" "Think of it like a blanket for your energy." He smiled softly. "I don't know how to cure you, but I can try to make the storm less violent." He slipped the device against the side of her chest, just under her collarbone, fastened it with a bioadhesive. "Oh, hold still. It'll feel strange." He activated it. The device whirred faintly. A pale blue light spread outward in gentle waves across Vonra's skin. The chaotic pulsing began to slow, stabilize. Her breath caught, and then deepened. Her fingers, which had been clenched around the blanket, slowly relaxed. She stared at him. "What did you do?" "Just a patch," he said again. "Something to give you time." Vonra's lips parted, her voice a breath. "You understood." Ryan didn't answer, but the tightness in his chest eased for the first time all night. And across her skin, the patterns of light, so faint before, began to reappear, dancing slowly, like constellations returning to the night sky. For the first time since he'd found her, Vonra wasn't trembling. The flickers of unstable light beneath her skin had softened into gentle waves, like moonlight drifting across still water. She lay with her eyes half closed, lips parted in steady breath, her slender fingers loosely curled at her sides. Ryan sat nearby, the makeshift regulator still warm in his hand, quietly stunned that it had worked. No textbook, no training, just instinct, wires, and care. It shouldn't have worked, but it had. He didn't realize he'd been staring until Vonra's voice pulled him back. "There's something else," she said, her voice barely louder than the whisper of air through the vents. Ryan leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Vonra blinked slowly, then looked down at her own chest, at the soft glow radiating outward. "I feel another rhythm, a second pattern, not mine." Ryan's brows furrowed. "Like another energy source?" She nodded. "It's faint, but it resonates with mine. Harmonizes. It's not chaotic, it's alive." He was still trying to wrap his head around that when Kazara entered, a mug of something steaming in his paw-like hand. "You're still here?" the Arcturan muttered. "You need sleep." Ryan didn't take his eyes off Vonra. "Kaz, could the regulator have triggered something?" Kazara raised an eyebrow, stepping closer. "Explain." "She says there's a new energy pattern, not hers, but connected." Kazara's eyes narrowed as he pulled out a handheld scanner and gently hovered it over Vonra's chest. Seconds passed, and then the display blinked. Kazara froze. "Well, stars above." Ryan stood. "What?" The Arcturan stared at the data, then slowly turned to them. "There's a second biosignature." Vonra's breath hitched. Kazara's tone softened, disbelief mingling with respect. "It's embryonic, but stable, developing, and fully unique." Ryan looked at Vonra. "You're pregnant?" She stared at the ceiling, stunned. Then, "That shouldn't be possible." Kazara nodded. "Interbreeding between humans and Lumedians is biologically improbable. Nearly zero recorded cases. The energy systems are fundamentally incompatible." Ryan stepped back, pulse thudding. "Then how?" Vonra's gaze met his. "The resonance," she whispered. "When you touched me, when your energy synced with mine, it didn't just stabilize me, it merged." Ryan swallowed. "We created life?" Vonra closed her eyes. "A life born from harmony, not chaos." Silence filled the room, thick, charged, fragile. Kazara broke it with a low rumble of awe. "Do you have any idea what this means?" To your species? To xenobiology? To the Vexillians? Ryan did. He saw it in Vonra's eyes too. The wonder, the fear, the dawning awareness. This wasn't just a pregnancy. It was a miracle, a rebellion against probability, a living contradiction to every cold equation that had once deemed her not worth saving. Vonra reached out, her fingers brushing Ryan's wrist. "I don't know what this future looks like," she said softly, "but I want to face it." He took her hand. Their palms met, warm, steady. "You won't face it alone." And across her skin, the constellation-like light pulsed brighter, swirling in spirals of soft blue and gold. Not chaotic, not dying, but alive, with something more than energy, with hope. The moment Kazara confirmed the second biosignature, Ryan's comm buzzed. He frowned, checked it. "Private alert. Vexillian enforcement deployed nearby sector." Kazara's ears flattened. "They've traced her energy signature." Ryan's pulse spiked. "Already?" "The resonance between you, it creates a unique bioelectric field. Trackable. And if they've flagged her as a quarantine risk, they'll come to detain her," Ryan finished, jaw tight. "More likely to contain her," Kazara said darkly. "Which usually ends in someone not coming back." Vonra sat up, her skin dimming as she fought the panic rising inside. "We can't run. Not like this." Ryan was already packing the medical kit, securing the vials of stabilizer. "We're not staying either." Kazara handed over a small injector. "This will slow any spikes if the fetus destabilizes your energy again." Vonra looked at Ryan, worry flickering through her luminescent gaze. "You barely know me. Why are you—" "Because I do know you," he said, cupping her cheek. "I know enough." Kazara pulled up a holographic map. "There's a cargo hauler leaving from docking bay 94 in 40 minutes. Old friend of mine, Captain Hardy. He won't ask questions." Ryan slung the medpack over his shoulder and helped Vonra to her feet. She moved slowly but with surprising steadiness, her skin still glowing faintly. They slipped out the back of the clinic, into the maze of alleys behind the alien quarter. A voice boomed from the street behind them. "By order of the Vexillian Health Authority, cease movement and surrender the subject." Ryan grabbed Vonra's hand. "Run!" They darted through shadowed corridors, ducking behind crates, slipping through vendor stalls. Around them, neon signs flickered in alien scripts, and curious eyes watched silently. They turned a corner and almost collided with a massive, gray-skinned figure. "Ryan Mercer," the Taurian rumbled. Ryan's heart dropped. "Grex?" The dockworker crossed his four thick arms. "I remember you. Winter maintenance in my daughter's nursery. No one else took the job." Ryan swallowed. "We're trying to get to Bay 94. Grex glanced past him, saw Vonra, saw the glow. Something shifted in his expression. "The Vexillians denied my cousin treatment. Said he wasn't statistically viable. He died. Then he turned. Follow me." No hesitation. He led them through a side door marked "Authorized Personnel Only" into the steam-filled maintenance tunnels beneath the port. Other workers nodded at Grex as they passed, but said nothing. "Why are you helping us?" Vonra asked as they jogged behind him. Grex didn't stop. "Because I remember kindness, and because I hate their numbers." They emerged in a dim hangar where a rust-scarred cargo ship stood waiting. A man in a flight jacket waved from the ramp. "Mercer? Captain Hardy? Get in. We're leaving in 3. They raced up the ramp just as a squad of white-armored Vexillian officers appeared at the far end of the bay. Grex hit the ramp controls, sealing them in. "Go!" The engines roared to life. As they lifted off, Vonra collapsed into Ryan's arms, breathless. "I've never run from a government before," she said between gasps. He held her close. "First time for everything." She looked up at him, eyes filled with something new, something steady. "Thank you for choosing me." He smiled, brushing a thumb against her cheek. "I didn't choose. I just knew. You weren't someone the universe should lose." And behind them, the lights of New Phoenix faded as the Persistent disappeared into the stars. The hum of the Persistent's sublight engines was a low, comforting thrum beneath their feet. Safe, at least for now. Ryan guided Vonra through the narrow corridor toward the guest quarters, one arm gently supporting her waist. She moved with quiet grace, though he could feel the fatigue in her every step. "You okay?" he asked, pausing at the door. She nodded faintly. "Tired, but steady." He keyed the panel and the door slid open with a soft hiss. The cabin was small but private. A bunk, a small storage wall, and a compact washroom. Nothing luxurious, but better than a hospital alley. Vonra stepped inside slowly, eyes drifting across the space. "It smells like you," Ryan chuckled. "Well, it is my emergency quarters. I don't use it often, but when I do, I bring snacks." She turned to look at him, something warm flickering in her gaze. "It's comforting. Human." He offered her the bed. "Lie down. You need rest." But she didn't move toward it. Instead, she reached for his hand. "Stay," she whispered. He stilled. "Here? With you?" Her eyes met his, glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. "You've done everything to keep me alive, Ryan. But this, what I feel, it's more than safety. It's you." He stepped closer hesitantly. "I'm scared," she admitted, voice trembling. "Not of you, of this bond. It shouldn't exist. It doesn't exist. But it's pulling me toward you like gravity." Ryan brushed a strand of silver hair from her cheek. "I feel it too. Like I've known you longer than I have. Like something inside me recognizes you." She reached up, fingers brushing along his jaw. "You humans, your emotions are so vivid, so raw. We Lumidians, we sense energy, but what I feel from you is like a supernova wrapped in a heartbeat." Slowly, reverently, she leaned in. And when their lips met, it wasn't urgent or desperate. It was inevitable. A connection that had waited across stars to find itself. Their kiss deepened, the kind that pulled every thought from his mind and replaced it with something brighter. Beneath his fingers, her skin shimmered, luminescent patterns swirling in response to every heartbeat. She gasped softly, her hands flattening against his chest. "I can feel you, your energy. It's syncing with mine again." He held her close, their bodies drawing together with a natural ease. Every point of contact sent a pulse through them both. The world narrowed until nothing existed but shared breath and the rhythm between two souls. They moved to the bed, clothes forgotten, barriers dissolving not just of fabric but of fear, culture, species. This wasn't about lust. It was about belonging. When they lay together skin to skin, the resonance magnified. Her glow brightened, not blinding, but beautiful. Gentle constellations danced across her skin, spiraling in response to touch, to emotion, to everything they were becoming together. She cried out softly, overwhelmed, not in pain, but awe. Ryan whispered her name against her collarbone, hands exploring reverently, grounding her as her energy swelled. "You're not alone. I'm here. I'm with you." "I know," she gasped. "I can feel you, inside my mind, like warmth and light." Their bodies moved in harmony, rhythm synced beyond biology, guided by the resonance that made them more than just man and alien. At the climax of their connection, a wave of pure energy passed between them, visible as light, tangible as breath. It filled the room with a subtle sacred glow. Vonra collapsed against him, trembling and glowing faintly. "That was beyond anything I've known. I've shared resonance with my kind before. But this," Ryan held her, heart racing but calm. "This was real." She looked up at him, cheeks flushed with glowing blue. "Ryan, it's permanent now. I feel you, even when I'm not touching you, like a second heartbeat." He pressed his forehead to hers. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." They lay in silence, their breath the only sound. Through the viewport, the stars moved slowly past, and somewhere between them, a new kind of home had been built, one made not of walls or gravity, but resonance. 3 hours after liftoff, the Persistent drifted into Europa's orbit, the frozen moon gleaming below like cracked marble under Jupiter's glow. Captain Hardy stood at the helm, grim. Vixillian patrols have flagged the main stations. We can't dock without alerting them. Kazara's voice crackled over the comm. I contacted a friend, Dr. Hamish, independent research vessel in the Southern Hemisphere, still under Earth Alliance jurisdiction. Ryan leaned over the console. Will she help us? She's a xenobiologist, Kazara replied. And like me, she believes some lives are more than data points. The Curiosity, a small, egg-shaped submersible platform, met them at a crevasse in Europa's southern ice. Ryan and Hardy boarded quickly. Inside, Dr. Hamish was all business. Graying hair in a braid, Earth Alliance med patch on her shoulder. I've got 6 hours before Vixillian lobbying kicks in. You want algae from the thermal plumes? You dive. Alone? Ryan asked. Only one suit rated for that depth. Unless you'd like to risk implosion. Ryan nodded. Then I'll go. Vonra touched his arm before he left the Persistent. Her skin glowed faintly, her voice low. Feel me. I'll be there. Like I was before. And somehow he did. The dive was silence, nothing but the thrum of his own breath, the data feed blinking on his HUD, and the abyss yawning endlessly below. The deeper he went, the darker it became. Light faded. Pressure crept in. A groaning hush wrapped around the sub as if the ocean itself whispered, "Turn back." But Ryan didn't. Vonra's presence pulsed inside his chest like a second heartbeat, not loud but constant, a thread. It kept him steady. At 3,000 meters, the world changed. Massive hydrothermal vents rose from the sea floor, black towers billowing mineral plumes, and around them, life. The phosphorescent algae didn't just glow. They shimmered, shifting like slow fire beneath the water. Ryan activated his suit's harvesting arm, collecting 3 samples, one from each vent. Just like Hamish instructed. The suit vibrated. Pressure warning. Time to go. He rose slowly, carefully, every meter earned by sheer will. When the Curiosity pulled him back in, Hamish yanked open the hatch and caught him mid-collapse. You got them? Ryan nodded weakly, voice raspy. They're alive. Hamish grinned. So are you. Back on the Persistent, Vonra was waiting at the airlock. Her hands trembled as she touched his suit, tears welling up in her glowing eyes. You went into the dark. Ryan pulled off the helmet, sweat pouring down his face. I'd go deeper than that. For you. She smiled and kissed him again. But this time, it tasted like survival, like something worth everything. The recovery wasn't instant, but it was undeniable. Dr. Hamish administered the algae extract carefully, mixing it with stabilizers Kazara had sent. Vonra winced at the first injection, but then her breathing eased. The glow beneath her skin returned. Stronger this time. Not flickering. Steady. Hours passed. She slept curled up in Ryan's arms, her head resting against his chest, her body finally still, not from exhaustion, but peace. When she woke, her eyes were clear, not glowing wildly, just clear. Calm. You stayed, she whispered. Ryan smiled. Told you I wasn't going anywhere. Her fingers traced the lines on his wrist. I felt you. During the worst of it. Even when I couldn't think straight. You were like a beacon. That's resonance, he said softly. You're not alone anymore. She pressed her forehead to his. You've risked everything for me. He kissed her temple. And I'd do it again. Dr. Hamish returned mid-morning with news. The fetus is stabilizing. Its genetic structure is adapting. It's not purely human or Lumidian. It's something new. Vonra's eyes widened, one hand going to her belly. Will it survive? It will live, Hamish confirmed, voice thick with awe. And more than that, its energy field is harmonizing with yours and Ryan's. It recognizes you both. Tears filled Vonra's eyes. It knows us. Ryan grinned, swallowing a lump in his throat. Kids already got a taste for family, huh? They laughed, truly laughed, for the first time since this journey began. But the moment didn't last. Kazara's voice broke through the comms. Ryan, they've found you. Ryan turned to the screen, jaw tightening. Vexillion? Full patrol cruiser. 2 hours out. Vonra's hand found his. Then we run again? Ryan looked at her, really looked. She wasn't weak anymore, she was glowing. He squeezed her hand. Number this time? We choose where we stand. They didn't have time to run. By the time Kazara finished recalibrating the jump engines, the Vexillion cruiser had entered orbit. 2 shuttles launched, one of them already scanning for heat signatures. They knew Vonra was alive, and they were coming to reclaim her. Ryan stood in the medbay, fists clenched, eyes locked on Vonra, her body trembling as another wave of pain gripped her. She's going into labor, Dr. Hamish confirmed grimly. The stress, the resonance, it's triggering early birth. Ryan grabbed a towel and knelt by Vonra's side, brushing sweat-drenched hair from her forehead. You're not alone, remember? I'm here. I'm right here. Vonra let out a low, guttural cry, her eyes glowing in irregular pulses. I can feel it. It's strong. Ryan, it's so strong. You both are, he whispered, holding her hand as tightly as she needed. Kazara stormed in. We have 20 minutes. After that, they breach the hull. Hamish snapped. Then let her bring life into this world first. The ship creaked under orbit strain, alarms pinging distantly. But in that room, time narrowed. Vonra screamed once more, and then came silence. A cry pierced it. Not of pain, not of fear, but life. A child, small, glowing faint blue, tiny veins of gold flickering under translucent skin. Human, yes, but not entirely, and undeniably alive. Hamish held the child reverently. It's breathing. It's by the stars. It's smiling. Vonra sobbed, exhausted, as Ryan gathered her and the baby in his arms. He's beautiful, she whispered. Ryan kissed her brow. So are you. Outside, alarms blared again, boarding protocols activated. But Kazara's voice cut through. Wait, the Vexillions? They're hesitating. Ryan looked at the scanner. 3 ships now hovered in holding position. One, the lead, was broadcasting. On screen, Ryan ordered. The Vexillion admiral appeared, regal, cold, but his eyes widened. He saw Vonra, saw the child, saw what they had done. There was a long pause. Then, in perfect English, he said, "We were told she was defective." Ryan stepped forward, child in arms. "She is not." The admiral stared, then slowly nodded. "Return to your space," he said at last. "We will report nothing." And the screen went black. Vonra wept again, this time with joy. Ryan kissed her, long and certain, because somehow love had changed the war. With a single child. 6 weeks later, the war was paused. No official treaty, no grand surrender, just silence. A collective, stunned breath across both sides. The transmission of the child's birth, of Vonra alive, of Ryan holding their hybrid son, had leaked. Whether by Kazara or Dr. Hamish, no one really knew, but the footage spread like wildfire across the galaxy. 2 enemies, 2 lovers, 1 child, glowing, breathing, laughing. It shook the stars. Ryan stood now at the observation deck of a floating research colony orbiting Europa. The baby, nicknamed Solon after the ancient word for bridge, slept soundly against his chest. Vonra stepped beside him wearing a simple Earth Lumidian medical robe. Her glow was softer now, calmer, her smile real. "Is he still dreaming?" she whispered. Ryan nodded. "I think he dreams of stars. And maybe sandwiches." She laughed softly and leaned into his shoulder. "He dreams of a world where he belongs." He wrapped an arm around her. "Then we'd better build it." From outside the viewport, the colony's lights stretched like a constellation. Scientists, diplomats, even former enemies now worked side by side, not because someone ordered them to, but because they'd seen something. Hope, proof, that maybe love really was the rarest force in the universe. Vonra reached for Ryan's hand and placed it over her heart. "You saved me. Not just my life, but my identity. You gave me purpose," he said gently. "And together, we made something worth fighting for." The child stirred in his arms, eyes fluttering open. Soft blue rimmed with golden light. Ryan smiled down. "Hey there, Solon. You ready to meet your galaxy?" Outside, 1,000 stars blinked back. And somewhere, far beyond the scanners, peace had already begun.